your instructor for this course. Okay. I want to start off, by the way, I'm here today with my lead TA, Farzaneh Hedayati, and we'll both be answering questions and talking during this live chat session, okay? I thought before we begin answering your questions, I thought you might be interested to know a little bit about your fellow students. So I've checked into it to see who makes up this wide spectrum of students we have, and I just thought I'd give you a little bit of information about that. As far as the age of students, almost half are 25 years old or younger, 48% to be exact. In fact, our youngest student in the class is just 8 years old. Imagine that. 37% of the students are 26 to 40, and then 15% are 41 or older. Okay, in fact, we have one student who's the oldest student, appears to be someone who is 73 years old. Go you! And we love to see lifelong learners, so it's great to have all of you here. Then, as far as the level of education of the student population, almost half of you, 46%, have completed high school or are still working on getting your high school diploma or the equivalent. So what that means is some students are still in their middle or elementary school years, the 8-year-old, for example. Okay, then 34% of you have bachelor's degrees, 4-year degrees, and 18% have a master's or PhD. Okay, then in regard to gender, about 55% are female, about 43% are male, and 2% have identified themselves as quote unquote other, transgender, and so forth. Okay, regarding where the students are living, we have students in this class from 96 different countries. Although 42% are from the United States, we also have students who are living and working in India, Egypt, Canada, the UK, Pakistan, Germany, Turkey, Romania, Japan, Hong Kong, Peru, the Ukraine, Greece, Russia, Peru, Algeria, and the Philippines, just to name a few. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the chat session over to Farzaneh, and she's going to make some introductory comments herself.
Hi everyone, I'm Farzaneh Hedayati, the graduate TA for this class. I'm very glad that we have this opportunity to directly talk to you today and answer your questions. As Dr. Whitaker explained, we have students from diverse backgrounds from all around the world. And we have students who are retired or looking for a job. Some of you are applying for college and some of you are still in high school. And like previous semester, we have many lovely students from Starbucks. Hello, Starbucks. This diversity is what makes being a part of this class valuable and amazing to me. I mean it. It is very, very important for me to be in one class and communicate with people from such diverse background and histories. Thank you all for being here with us and sharing your stories and ideas with us on Yellowdig. And I want to let you know that we all appreciate your contribution, and we value every sentence that you write on Yellowdig. And this is very important for us, and I want to ask you to keep doing what you are doing. You are amazing, and we're going to have a great time together.
Okay, so I'm going to respond to the first question I have here now. This is from a student named Dandy May. Hi, Dandy, Dandy May. And Dandy had a question about the reading by Howard Becker entitled Culture, a Sociological View. She actually had two questions about two passages in that reading. And so I'll respond to her first question, and then we'll talk about the second one. Okay, I'm just going to first start by reading Dandy May's question. She says, according to Becker, in Culture, a Sociological View, in any new form group, even when its members come from substantially different backgrounds, they're still likely to share what? She says she's not clear about that passage. She said she saw that the reading suggested that when new culture is created, that she said that she thinks the answer to the question is something along the lines of newly formed group members sharing a consensus about what's the most appropriate and efficient ways of behaving, but she's not sure if she's on the right track. So I just want to say, yes, Dandy, you're on the right track. The author of this reading, Becker, he opens his discussion in the reading by noting that sociologists wonder, given that we're all individuals, how is something like culture, where we've made agreements with each other about how we're going to conduct ourselves when we run into each other, sociologists ask, how is culture even possible? And he goes on to point out that even groups of people who come from very different backgrounds are in all likelihood going to have at least a few ideas in common about what something means or about how to act. And so what Becker says is people will use this little bit of common ground that they do have and build as a place to start from, and then they will build on it from there. They will work out with starting at that place of common ground. They will then work out whatever other types of agreements about they're going to make with each other about how to act around each other, and they're going to go from there. So then, Dandy, your next question is this, and I'm going to read her question. It says, this kind of relates to another question about a different passage in the reading, which is, quote, once a member of a recently formed group cooperates with others to work out how they will handle novel circumstances that confront them, say what do they go on to do what? And Dandy says, from my reading of the excerpts, I gathered that this would be the fact that others share their collective solutions. And I just want to say once again, Dandy, you are absolutely right. Becker is saying that once the members of a newly formed group talk to each other and work out how all of them are going to handle a particular type of situation, they are then going to assume that everyone who was present during that, for the time when they worked out their solution of how they were going to conduct themselves around one another, they're going to assume that everybody else who was in on that conversation has also bought into the game plan that they've come up with together. So, Dandy and the rest of you, I think this way of thinking about social interaction and about culture throws everybody for a loop who is taking their first sociology course. It's a completely different way of thinking about not only how people develop culture, but also about what is the nature of what we call, quote unquote, reality. I think most people have grown up with the idea that reality, right, and culture are things that exist outside of human beings. Whereas Becker and other sociologists are saying that culture just like many other features of reality, are social constructions. They exist because people made them up. People got together and created them through social interaction. Okay. So what Becker and others are saying is that people come together, discuss, debate, argue, compromise maybe, and eventually come up with ideas that are jointly held about how they're going to do things, how they're going to conduct themselves in certain type of situations. And this is especially true for situations that happen over and over again. For example, standing in line to buy tickets at a movie theater. At some point, people got together and decided, we're going to stand in line. We're going to form a line, so it's kind of first come, first served to buy the tickets. And then those people, when they raised their kids, they taught their kids, you have to stand in line and wait your turn to buy a movie ticket. And so that practice, that norm, that piece of the culture endured because people kept, decided that was how things were going to be worked out at one point, and then passed it along through the generations. The next generations coming up also bought into the rule, and so it perpetuated. Okay. All that said, I will tell you, Dandy May, that there are many sociologists who don't agree at all with Becker's ideas about the nature of culture and reality. They don't believe that people are, in effect, constantly winging it and inventing or constantly reinventing culture and reality as they go along. So the ideas of Becker and other sociologists who think like him represent just one school of thought, which is called the interactionist school. But it's a very important school of thought, so I thought it would be, I want students to be exposed to it. Well, I hope this answers your question, Dandy. And if you would like further reading on this subject, of this way of thinking about the nature of culture and society and reality, I want to recommend two books to you, both of which are thin paperback books. The first one is titled The Social Construction of Reality, and it's written by two sociologists, Peter Berger and Thomas Luckman. And the second book is written by another very famous sociologist. All these guys I'm mentioning, they're all super famous sociologists. Another sociologist named Erving Goffman, Goffman, and his book is titled The Presentation of Self in Everyday Life. Okay. All right, so now I believe Farzaneh is going to respond to another question we've received. Okay, over to you, Farzan.
Thank you. So I want to answer a question asked by Wintila Wan. Hi, Wintila. And Wintila wants to know if the influence of the mass media, including social media, news outlets, the internet, etc., serve to create hatred, violence between different groups, which divides our country, or is it in fact a force that unifies citizens and serves to protect us from outsiders who are our enemies? My suggestion is to, instead of looking at social media as originally either good or bad thing, let's look at media as a tool which everyone uses for their own goals. Like, let me give you an example. A knife is a tool. You give that knife to a surgeon and they use it to save a life. Again, you give the same knife to a murderer and they use it to take people's lives. This is an example of how we are supposed to look at different tools around us. if we look at social media as a tool which is not good or bad by itself, we can see the way that people use it makes it good or bad. Another example is language. If someone is polite, they use their language to respect other people. Or if someone is a mean person, she or he uses her language to annoy other people. That's the same about social media. Different groups use social media for different goals. If they want to spread hatred, and if they want to see people fighting each other, they will post different comments, or they will post videos, or anything that makes people feel separated from each other and confront each other. And if they like to have a unified society, they post things and they spread things which keep us united and loving each other. And my guess is answer to this question could be that it highly depends on how we use it. Social media by itself couldn't be helpful or destructive. This is us. This is we humans that make it go to either of these directions. Thank you for listening. I guess it was my answer. Lisa, do you want to add anything?
Yes, I want to add something to that. I mean, I completely agree with Farzaneh about this, but I think media is, like she said, it's the media itself, the social media, whatever mass media, whatever type of medium of communication we're talking about, it isn't intrinsically good or bad. It's a tool, and it's, I would say, neutral. And what gives it either it's unifying or divisive character and effect is a function of who is using it and how that individual or that group how the people using it are using it. Are they using it for to spread hate? Are they using it to trash I don't know, someone who disagrees with them? Are they using to spread messages of cooperation and compromise and nonviolence and unity? And, you know, so I think it's a tool, and the effect that it has depends a lot on the way it's used. What I also think about the media is all of us have our own beliefs in this, especially in this time with all the things going on both in this country and around the world. And it's really good to keep an open mind and not let yourself get into a rut with your consumption of media, and not simply listen to only those people who think like you do, which kind of that causes you to sort of live in a bubble and just, you know, an echo chamber where all you're hearing is stuff that reinforces what you already think. Something I've started doing is reading. I like to read newspapers. In the morning I read, along with answering email and so on. I started reading a lot of different newspapers with different political perspectives underlying them, different types of messages. They're speaking to different audiences. And I found that a way to really keep myself able to think critically about what information I take in is to expose myself to a lot of different points of view, and then, you know, look at, you know, whatever videos may go along, which are visual records of whatever the truth, you know, really happened. They're not someone's biased analysis of something that happened. And so I try to consider all these different points of view and then make my own decision. And I would urge you then to see media not as a force for unity or a force for division. I think it can be either one depending on how a medium of communication is used. But I just urge you to try to think critically about what you read. What is the objective of the author? Where are they coming from? You know, what do we know about it? And so I've kind of also educated myself about the authors of different news articles and so on that I've read, so I have a sense of their background and where they're coming from, and that helps me make my assessment also. We only got one additional question from all of you, and that was a question from somebody who apparently thought that I had done some research in Vietnam, and I wish I had been to Vietnam, because I'd really like to go sometime. I really like to travel. I haven't yet done enough, you know, as much as I would like to in my life, and I hope to do more in the future. But unfortunately, I've never been to Vietnam, so I couldn't respond to your question. I do, I don't know if I put this in my biography, but I do volunteer work usually every other month. I fly down to a remote village in Mexico where there's a high jobless rate and there aren't good medical services. And I act as an interpreter, Spanish, English, for the doctors and nurses and dentists who go down there. And that's really about, and we go for, it's just a long weekend every other month. But that's about all the travel I've been able to do lately, unfortunately. But I hope to get to Vietnam one day, and other parts of Asia and Europe. Okay, well, thank you so much. We love getting your questions and responding to them. And I hope that we'll have another live chat session in a few weeks. And I hope you will again pose your questions and give us a lot of questions, so we'll have more to discuss with you. And for now then, you guys are, as Farzaneh said, you're doing amazing work. We're all very proud of you. Really, we've got some really interesting people in this class doing really cool stuff. So we always enjoy reading and responding to your posts in Yellow Dig and answering your questions in the course. So thank you very much. I guess that's all for now, and we'll be talking to you next time.